If you go the other way, then you get 0 minus 2 over 3 plus 4, which is negative 2 over 7, which is, 3 minus, 3 minus minus 4, which is 3 plus 4. Wait a minute.
Negative 4 minus 3.
Stop. If you went the other way, it was 0 minus 2, because I did 2 minus 0. Oh, that's why I screwed up the first one. There we go. Now it's fixed. Thank you. 2 minus 0, and then negative 4 minus 3, which is 2 over negative 7. Flip it the other way around, and it's 0 minus 2 and 3 plus 4, which is negative 2 over 7, and they're the exact same thing. There we go. Thank you. Graph using slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. What is the difference between that and that? Y is not isolated. So if you make that look like that, you'll be in business. So that is 3 over 2x minus 2 equals y. Now you know the slope and the y-intercept. The y-intercept is negative 2, 1, 2. The slope is 3 halves, which is rise, 1, 2, 3, over run, 1, 2. And then I go back to the original line, I go down 1, 2, 3, and I go left 1, 2. And I make that line right there. If you need to stop me, stop me. I'm feeling good about sky blue today. Is it sky blue?
That's weird. That's the weird blue that no one has used. So you should.
All right. X and y intercepts. X intercepts, x0. Y intercept, 0y. So 6x plus 12 equals 0. 6x equals negative 12. X equals negative 2. Then 3y plus 12 equals 0. 3y equals negative 12. Y equals negative 4. And then negative 1, 2, 3, 4. And then negative 1, 2. And then line.
And then the slope's really 2, right?
The slope's negative 2. Have any of you guys seen that movie, Dude, Where's My Car?
It's not, it's very cheesy.
Huh?
It's very kind of corny.
Yeah, it's totally corny. It's an awful movie, but there's 3 good lines in that movie. The first, or 3 good things that happen. The first thing is they order Chinese food. And they order Chinese food. They get on the phone. They say, yeah, I get some sweet and sour chicken. And then the lady at the other end of the phone says, and then, and he says, yeah, and some chicken chow mein. And then, because that's how you order food when you're ordering Chinese food. If you order Chinese food by the phone. But nobody orders Chinese food by the phone anymore. You all use the internet. But if you were to order Chinese by the phone for delivery, which they used to do, that's how you order it. Can I get some chicken chow mein, and then some house special chop suey, and then some mugu gai pan, and then some almond gai ding, and then, right? You always say, and then, and then, and then. So the lady was going, and then, and then, and then. And then she got to the end of everything that they wanted to order, and she said, and then he said, no more and then, that's all we want. Click. It was funny when you saw it. And the other thing that's funny in that movie is they walk into a kind of a creepy place, and he says, there's something awfully Canadian about this place. Which, when you watch the DVD director's commentary, wasn't even in the script. He made that up on the spot. And he chose to say Canadian because it's ironic, because there's nothing weird about Canada. We're the most normal place in the world, according to Sean William Scott, who was Stifler from American Pie.
Let's go.
There we go. Stifler from American Pie. Sean William Scott. He was also the guy in Goon and Goon 2. And he is going to be the guy that takes over on the TV show Lethal Weapon. He's an actor. He was the guy in the Rundown that The Rock was trying to get. How have you not seen? That's it! Hasn't seen The Rundown. What do you call these nuts here? What do you call Brazil nuts in Brazil? We call them nuts. When you pee in the river, the parasite swims up your urine. The rundown. Nothing?
No.
Negative 5 over 4 equals y minus 1 over 5 plus 3. Negative 5 over 4 equals y minus 1 over 8. Negative 40 equals 4y minus 4. Negative 36 equals 4y. Y equals negative 9. Any questions? Everyone should have done page 221 perfectly. Yes? See what I did there? Pobody's nerfect. Back in the 80s, you could buy giant pink erasers. And they were giant. And they had written on them,
How big were they?
they were giant, like this big.
That's very cool.
And they were Pobody's nerfect because you needed an eraser to fix your mistakes. And another version of that same giant pink eraser, ask your parents about it. They'll remember the 80s.
Perfect?
You know, it said, yeah, for really big mistakes.
Also, my parents should know about this one.
Your parents will know about them. Your parents were alive in the 80s. Your parents are around my age. Actually, I think your parents might be a little bit older than me. I think Luke's parents are a little bit older than me. I think. How old's your dad?
Like 52.
Yeah, he's older than me. How old's your mom? Don't tell me how old your mom is. It's nobody's business. Whew, that was close. Almost dodged a bullet there. Anyway, yes, Luke's dad is a little bit older than me. All right, now this one counts. So I'm going to go slower and allow you more input. You get 1 point for the algebra. You get 1 point for the graph.
That seems like a great system.
Okay, so slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Isolate y. 2x minus 4 equals negative 3y. Most of you will have moved the y because you want to isolate y. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend moving everything else because y is already positive. When you guys make that y negative, you screw up. But most of you probably did this for a first step. That's okay. Now I got to divide by negative 3. So it's 2 over negative 3x plus 4/3 equals y. That gets you 1 point. Doesn't matter where the y is. It can be on the other side. But it has to be, and the negative could be on the top or in the middle or on the bottom. Everybody happy? Great. Now graphing this is tricky. What makes this tricky?
It's in thirds.
It's in thirds for the slope-intercept, yes?
But it's in thirds.
So, if I go 1, 2, 3, and I put a 1 right there, am I okay?
I can't see.
It'll show up. Because that is 3/3, correct? And my y-intercept is 4/3, so I can put a y-intercept right there, yes? Now, if I keep the x scale the same, am I allowed to just count for the slope? Yes or no? Yes. So if I go 1, 2, 3 and make that 1, then all I got to do is count. Down 2, right 3. And there's my slope. I like to have 3 in a row. And there it is. The other option is to have done this. And you would still get full marks for it, so stay cool.
Unless it crashes.
The other option was to have done this. Leave this as 1, and 4/3 would just be a little bit past 1, right? Then you go down 2 to a little bit past 0, a little bit past negative 1, and out 1, 2, 3 to there. That would also have been acceptable. Please notice that the lines work together well.
I don't like having anything on my graphs for the line to go through if I like label it. So I just on the top I say each square is in 1/3 integrals or something like that.
Sure.
Is that good?
Prove to me that you know what you're doing.
All right.
Graph using x and y intercepts. An x-intercept means there's an x value, yes? But it means there's no y value. So it's 5x plus 15 equals 0. 5x equals negative 15. X equals negative 3. A y-intercept means there's no x value. Negative 10y plus 15 equals 0. Negative 10y equals negative 15y equals 1.5. And again, should I use scaling? If I want, yes. If I don't want, then I just got to put the dot halfway between. Everybody understand? So it's either this, 1, 2, 3 for an x-intercept, and 1.5 for a y-intercept, right through 1.5, or you went up 1, you made this 1, I'll change color back to purple, you made this,
That's something like fire screeching.
1, 2, 3 for the y-intercept, because that's 1.5. And out here, you went out how far? You would have to go how far if you scaled this? 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right there. And of course, you would have noticed that you get the same slope. She's mad. I've never seen Amy that angry. She gave you a disapproving look.
Oh, she does that when she looks at my math too.
So do I. Find the slope here. It is either 4 minus 3 over 2 plus 10 or 3 minus 4 over negative 10 minus 2. But they're the exact same thing.
So wait,
1 12th.
The top one. Did you put a line for each intercept?
Which? What are you talking
You
about?
made you did the slope from each different intercept.
You connected the two dots and drew the line.
Okay, I was confused with what that red one was.
That red one was if you didn't scale it.
Oh, okay.
It's 3 and 1.5.
We thought I got the intercept from and made two different lines for each intercept.
No. Parallel, what does that mean?
It doesn't matter because it can just be the same.
It's got to be the same slope. How do you get slope when you're in this form?
You gotta revert the equation to y equals mx plus b.
Right, so it's negative 3y equals negative 5x. Then I got to get rid of the 3, so y equals negative 5x over negative 3. Two negatives make a...
But what if you forgot the 12?
You don't need the 12 because I'm only asking about the slope.
Alright.
So, what is the slope I need?
5
5/3, because two negatives make a positive. These are all worth 2 marks on this page, by the way. Perpendicular line, you're going to do the same thing, except what are you going to do once you find that slope?
Switch it. Reciprocate.
Reciprocate it and
Reverse the sign.
reverse the sign. So 2y equals negative 7x. So y equals negative 7/2. So the slope I want is 2/7. Yeah? Questions? None? Lovely. Turn the page over. Oh, this one's so difficult. Oh my gosh, how will you ever solve it? I don't know.
I just gave this.
We got to parallel and perpendicular lines, yes? So, how will you ever solve this? What is that? That's a slope. So that there's an M, isn't it? What is that?
An x value.
That there's an X, isn't it? What is that?
So what is that?
That there's a Y, isn't it?
Oh,
Do you have any thing that uses X, Y's, and M's? I think you do. What is it? y equals mx plus b. What goes in for y? Negative 2. What goes in for m? Negative 2/3. What goes in for x? Negative 5 plus b. Now you have one unknown. Can you solve for it? Of course you can. Negative 2 equals positive 10/3 plus b, correct? Right? Solve b, you got to move that over, right? Right? Negative 2 is negative 6/3 minus 10/3 equals b. What's negative 6 minus 10? Negative 16/3. So b equals negative 16/3. So y equals negative 2/3 x minus 16/3. I would also accept y equals negative 2/3 x minus 5 1/3. Right? Everybody cool? No, just give me a second. Once we get to here, we're in slope-intercept form, we can do everything easy, right? Is there an easier way to do this? Without algebra? Of course you could graph it. If you graph it, what happens? Because all of you go right to algebra. I bet. Did all of you go right to algebra?
No. Yeah.
You didn't?
Oh my god.
What'd you guys do?
Algebra and I got an answer that was so far off that I questioned my.
What did you do? You graphed it?
Oh my god, what happened?
And then what did you do?
I went up to.
Up to?
I went down to and
Went down to?
right
And right 3. To what point?
negative 8.
No. 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 Negative 2, negative 4. All right. You actually graphed it. You might have graphed it poorly, but you graphed it. Sweet. Oh, that's good. I'm surprised. Usually by this point in my pre-dip class, everyone's like, graphing sucks, and goes straight to algebra without recognizing that graphing has a place. Of course, you could also have gone up 2 and left 3 to get negative 8, 0, which is probably one of those 2 points is probably what everybody has. Is it? Excellent. Is this a right triangle? How do you know? Yes. But should you check all 3 corners?
You don't need me to check the 2 that, well, if you graph it,
Only if you're a crazy person would you check all 3 corners. Because only one corner need be 90, yes? So, 1, 2, 3, 4, down, 1, 2. A, 2, 1. B, negative 2, negative 2. C. Where do you think we should check? B. So I need to check CB, which is negative 2 minus 1 over negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 3/4. Yeah? And then I need to check AB, which is negative 2 minus 1 over what? 4 minus 2, which is negative 3 over 2.
noise.
Smart. So that is a no-go. Should I check there? It's a pretty dodgy one. Should I check BA and CA?
No.
Okay. So this is yes or no?
That is a no.
That's a big old no.
Big old no.
Okay. That's out of 2 marks. Everything was out of 2.
Wow.
Which part? You found 2 slopes and you checked if they were perpendicular. What do you need me to go over, Harmon? Can you find a slope? Do you know how to find slope when you have 2 points? That's all I did. I found the slope of CB and I checked it against BA. And they were not opposite reciprocals. Except that should have been positive 3/4. Negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. Negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. So it should have been positive 3/4. Gouda? Everybody? Excellent. We did 6-3. So give yourself a mark out of 14. Let us move on to 6-4. This is my favorite way to graph. And because it's my favorite way to graph, it gets my all-time favorite font. Cocktail Bubbly. Now, some people get bothered by calling this point slope form. That's what I was taught it was called, so that's why I say point slope form. But a lot of textbooks, because you already know slope intercept form, they call this,
Slope point form? What is that? That's not human writing. Sorry, oh, I see you.
A lot of textbooks write it as slope point form because you're used to saying slope intercept form. They're the same thing. Okay? Everybody good? All right. So, if I wanted you to graph a linear function and you were in the 9th grade, what would you have done?
I have no idea.
Let me give you an example. 3x plus 2y equals 5. What would you have done if I asked you to graph that in the 9th grade? Yes, you do. There's 30 of you here. You couldn't remember, you couldn't graph that.
Not in grade 9.
You are telling me that this makes no sense to you. You have never seen this. I know you all have, because every single one of you almost went to school in this room, in grade 9, in math, pre-dip, and used these notes. Because I gave these notes to Mr. Hirschman. And I taught pre-dip 9, and Mr. Hirschman taught pre-dip 9, which means every single person in this room that did pre-dip 9 in this class knows how to do that. Forgetting is different than not knowing. Okay, now that you've seen it, how would you graph that?
You would insert a value for x and y.
You would just insert a value for x and y. 7 and 4.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't know.
I've inserted a value for x and y. 7 and 4. Must be able to put it on the graph. 7, 4. There we go. That must be on that line. Try again. Starts with a T, ends with an S, has able of value in the middle of it. Table of values. You guys got it in the first try. Oh, the best and brightest. Yay! Now, in grade 10, which was, to be fair, like 5 days ago, in grade 10, I do expect you to remember that. How did we learn to graph first? Using intercepts. Nice job, Lena Goot. You weren't even here in the 9th grade.
No, but turns out I found out like over the weekend that that's what we did in grade 8. Sadly, and I can't remember any of it.
X and Y intercepts. X0, 0Y. And then you learned a third way to do it. What was it? Oh, hey, I did.
I told you.
What's wrong here? Why is harder black?
Because she threw something over towards Caleb and Harsh, and it was a bad throw, and it appeared to bounce off the wall, narrowly missing Caleb's head.
Hey, do you know what also was off the wall? The fact that we haven't moved along 2 pages in the whole entire class yet.
Oh my god.
You were your questions weird. You were this question like how do we graph linear functions, and I could do.
So, all of you should be able to do all 3 of those. Now, there's a problem. Because all 3 of those force you to use specific points on the graph. Yes? The table of values locks you into the points that you put onto the table of values.
How would we use it?
You would choose an input and get an output. So choose an input of 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 2y plus 3 equals 5. Then you would subtract the 3 from both sides. 2y equals 2. Y equals 1. And you would carry on. Now, when you do slope x and y intercepts, you are locked into what specific points? The x and the y intercepts. When you do slope intercept form, you are locked into 2 things. Slope and the y-intercept. Yes? But the Cartesian plane is made up of how many points? How many points? An infinite amount of points. So doesn't it make sense that we should move the people that don't shut up when they're supposed to be shutting up? Because I think that makes perfect sense. And wouldn't it also make sense that by June you would be able to read the room, which is code for recognizing what is going on around you and changing your behavior to be an appropriate reflection of what is going on around you? I would think that would make sense. But that lesson has been lost on a few members of our classroom. Would it not make sense then to have a version of a linear function that works with every single point on the entirety of the Cartesian plane? Yes, it would. And fortunately for you, other people paid attention in math class in time immemorial and have worked out this form for you. So all you need to do is learn how to use it. It is the fourth version, and it is called, as I said, point slope form up there, but I'm going to write it down here the other way so you guys get used to seeing both of them. And slope point form looks like this. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Now, you have already seen notation like this, correct? We have seen notation that has more than one y value, more than one x value. We know what m is, right? Everybody good? So, if I were to tell you that I had a slope of negative 2/3. We're going to use 2/3. No, we'll use that same example. The slope up here would be negative 2/3, correct? Everybody understand why? Because if I started with that and I went 2y equaled negative 3x plus 5, yeah? And then y would equal, it's negative 3/2. Is everybody cool with that? Everybody cool? Okay. So where could I put that in this equation? That would be m. So I'm going to rewrite it with an m as soon as my pen allows me to use red ink. Y minus y1 equals negative 3/2 x minus x1. Everybody cool? Everybody should be cool with that one, yeah? Now, if I were to say, on my table of values, if I were to put 1 in for x, what would y be? Y would be 1, correct? Everyone agree? So we now know that in this function, 1, 1 is a point on the graph, correct? Okay. And I know since the slope is negative 3, 2, I could find the next point by counting, couldn't I? Where would I go from positive 1 y if I was using this slope? I'm trying to find another point on the graph. You guys just did this when you had a slope and a point. What'd you do? How did you find the other point on the graph? We used 3 and 2, which was up and down, which was left and right. Negative 3 is down. So if I were to go down 3 from 1, where would I end up? Negative 2. And if I did negative there, this has to be positive, correct? So do I go right or left from 1? Right, which is 3. Does everyone agree that those 2 points are on the graph? Yes? Everybody cool? Okay. Which makes these guys x's and these guys y's, yes? Now the last time you saw this notation with y1 and y2, or y1 and x1, would I be allowed to put a little 2 there if I wanted to? Does that make sense to everyone? Right, it makes sense because it's a different value, yeah? Now, the last time you saw a notation like this, did it matter which was x2 and which was x1? No, it didn't matter at all, did it? Who chose? You chose. For argument's sake, do you guys mind if we make these x1 and y1 and these x2 and y2? Is everyone okay with that? Okay, now watch. Put these points in here. So, what would y2 be? Negative 2. Agreed? Minus, what's y1? 1. Everybody cool? Equals negative 3 halves. What's x2? 3. What's x1? Minus 1. Is everybody cool? Now notice something, please. What do you see there and there? 1 and 1. What do you see there and there? 1 and 1. Everybody with me? What do you notice about that and that? They're both what? Negative. And what do you notice about that and that? They're both positive. Everybody see this? Okay. So, if I only knew this point, pretend I didn't know these guys yet, then those would have to still be what?
X and Y.
Y and X, wouldn't they? Negative 1, but the point on the graph was positive 1. What if I didn't know the 1 and 1? Then what would it be?
What it is at the top.
Y.
Minus Y.
No. I didn't know this one, but I know this one now. It will be Y. What kind of 2?
Positively.
Positive 2, because it's minus 2, right? Equals, what would this guy be? X minus 3. And then you notice that this point is always a known point from our graph. Right? The constants are the known point. But remember to switch the signs. And I just want to show you why. So I have this, y minus 1 equals negative 3 over 2 x. Correct? Right? So the point on the graph we know is 1, 1. Why isn't it negative 1, negative 1? Well, because this is an x and a y, isn't it? So I would put a 1 there and a 1 there, correct? 1 minus 1 is what? 0. 1 minus 1 is what? So I get 0 equals 0. Everything cool? If I forget to change those signs and I just say, Oh, it's -1 and -1. -1 minus 1 is -2, correct? -1 minus -1 is -2, correct? -3/2 times -2 is +3. Does -2 equal +3? No. That's why we must remember to change the signs. Everybody good? All right. Let's see if indeed you are. There's an equation in point-slope form. Attributes means you tell me what you know about that line. Like if you were referring to my attributes, you would say smart, funny, handsome. Of course, right? Then those of you who are mean to me would say short, fat, old, broken down, loud, obnoxious, rude, pushy, and I could go on. But none of you, of course, would say any of those things because you would have stopped at smart, funny, and handsome. Right?
Yeah.
See?
But short is not a bad thing.
Short people got no reason to live. Just like the song says. There's a song. Google it. It's from the 70s. Short people got no reason to. Short people got no reason to. It's a real song. Yeah, it is. But what are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do about it?
If we have some time, I'll let you hear it. All right, so back to attributes. What do you know about this line? You know some stuff. What do you know?
The slope.
You know the slope? It has the slope of what? -2/3. And it goes through what point?
2, 0. I mean 0, 2, and 1, -1, 0. 0, -2. And 1.
1 and -2. Because those are the points you know.
Okay.
So what's the next one? What's the slope? -1/4. And it goes through what point? Magic. Uh-oh. Tricky McTrickleton. What's happening in 3? What's the slope? 1. Because 1 times what's in the brackets. What point does it go through?
-2, -1. I mean -1,
-2, -1. You were right the first time. X's go first. Ooh, 4. What's the slope? 1/2. What point does it go through? Woo, doggy. Why is it 0? Because isn't y minus 0 just y? Excellent. What about the 5th one? What's the slope? -1. And what does it go through? -5, -3. Whoo, doggy! And finally, back to a nice easy one to finish us off. What's the slope? And goes through what? 1/10. Everybody cool with just looking at it? Great. Let us apply that knowledge. Cabbages, turn your page over. What form is number 7 in? Point slope form. What do you know about that value and that value? That's where the point goes, but it has to be opposite. Why? Because Mr. Myers said so.
Because the formula goes minus, so you have to switch the sign and close with that.
Okay. Because if you don't, Is this still equal?
No.
If you use 1 and -2, will this be equal? No. So you have to remember to switch the signs. Your x must be -1 and your y must be 2. Because 2 minus 2 is 0. -1 plus 1 is 0. 0 equals 0 because 2/3 times 0 is still 0. So I put the point on my graph at -1, 2. Now I graph my line. How, though? I only have one dot. How do I find the other points? With the slope, because slope is what? M equals 2 over 3, which also equals rise over run. So I go up, 1, 2, and left to right. If I went up, I go right, 1, 2, 3. Then if I go down, I go left, 1, 2, 3. And then what do I do with those 3 dots? Connect them. Because it is continuous data, because every single number in the universe can go into that equation. Yeah? Is everybody good? Let's do number 2. What is my known point? -5, -1. Is he correct? Yes, because -5 plus 5 will get me 0. 0 times 2 is 0. -1 plus 1 will get me 0. Does 0 equal 0? In the universes I live in, it does. So I can graph it. I go to -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, and then, golly gee dag nabbit, how do I find the other 2 points? Drop 2 and right 1, or left 1. Could I have dropped 4 and gone right 2? Could I have dropped 8 and gone right 4? Could I have dropped 76 and gone right 38?
Maybe. Most likely, yeah.
Yes. That division, she's a toughie. You don't want to mess with division, man. It'll split you. The quotient of good jokes to bad jokes keeps getting higher. Quotient, division, smart, funny, and handsome. I know. Don't worry about it. That's a sign of a good joke. About 10% of your audience doesn't get it. Number 9 is tricky. Number 9 says there's 2 lines. What do you know about those 2 lines? You know anything about either of them? You know they're perpendicular. So you know line 1 has a slope, but line 2 is perpendicular. Nice. What else do you know? They cross at the y-axis, so that means they must hit the y-axis at the same spot, yes? So what must they share? They share a y value, and that y value is the y-intercept, isn't it? So line 1, line 1, line 2, have the same y-intercept. Yeah? Now, what is every single y-intercept? 0, y, correct? Okay. Well, What do I know? Let's talk, shall we? Can I graph one of the lines? So as long as I know the y-intercept, I'm in business, yes? Is the y-intercept a point on the graph?
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The y-intercept is a point on the graph. So could I use point-slope form? Yes. The y-intercept is also part of slope-intercept form, isn't it? So could I use slope-intercept form? Does it matter which one I use? No, because let's be honest, point-slope form is just slope-intercept form, but the x is 0, isn't it? So, let's do this. Let's graph line 1, which would be in purple. Well, here's line 1. How do I graph that? Would I make a table of values like a 9th grader? Like a cheese-eating 9th grader? Would you? No, I know some of you guys are technically in grade 9, but you're not cheese-eating 9th graders. You're not. Would I do a table of value like a cheese-eating 9th grader that isn't Key and DeVries? Would I? No, of course not. What would I do? I would put it into either point-slope form or slope-intercept form. Which one do you want to do? Point-slope. So you would take this and make it look like that. You would want to go from that to that. Because your other option would be that to this.
That's too easy.
Don't say that.
Yeah, but what's with the negative y?
Yeah, I don't know why I said it like that either. I'm a little confused. How can I make that look like... Yeah, he sounded like a Muppet. Not too easy. How can I make that look like that?
Take the plus 8 and 2x and move it on the other side.
Absolutely. I would just move the y, actually. 2x plus 8 equals y. Is that line 1? Great. Now, what do you know about that line 1? At 8. And you know that that 8 is also part of line 2, isn't it? So you now know that 0, 8 is on both lines, don't you? So now you have a point. Do you have a slope for line 2? Yeah, you do. What's the slope for line 1? M of line 1 is what? 2. So what's the M of line 2? What? Not negative 2. No. Perpendicular slopes? Negative 1/2. So now do I know my negative slope? Right? I know line 2's slope. So do I have a slope for line 2? Do I have a point for line 2? So I could do y minus 0 equals negative 1/2 x minus 8. Couldn't I? Couldn't I? Yeah? Yeah? Everyone agree? Yeah, yeah, yeah? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Would I be right? Would I be right? Is that point slope form?
Yeah.
So would I be right? Would you write y minus 0?
You write y.
What would you write? Y. Yeah? Everybody happy? Easy peasy lemon squeezy, yeah? All right. Page 200 is today's work. You got 20 minutes to do it. 200. Oh, wait, yeah, your book's different from mine here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true.
231. Sorry. Your tests. The Unit 5 test is the biggest test of the year in terms of marking. It'll be ready for you tomorrow. No. The one you just wrote. I haven't marked it. It's the biggest test to mark. It takes the longest time.
Could you go up on my example again? I just want to yeah, right there.
Yeah. I'm sorry, what? Of course we will.
So you reverse those points for the perpendicular line?
Wait a second. Whoa! Stupid Ed Myers. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. What did I do wrong in blue?
You switched the X and Y.
Yes, you do know. What did I do wrong, Luke?
Switched the X and Y, that's why I was...
Yeah. This should have been y minus what? And this should have been x minus what? 0. So it should have been few. Thank goodness I looked it over. It won't erase because it wants to shame me. Y minus 8 equals negative 1/2 x. That would be point slope form. And then slope intercept form would be y equal negative 1/2 x plus 8. There we go. Phew! Listen to me, please. I would like to say I did that on purpose to show you how easy it is to screw up point slope form on your test, but I didn't. I just made a mistake. But what I will use this as is a nice teachable moment to say, that didn't look right to me. So you can see I went back over here and I did a little more drawing and then I realized I made an error. Right? Check your work. You always have time. Now get to it.